You ever get that feeling that there's a conversation happening inside your own head, but you're not exactly in charge of it? Well, today, we're diving deep into that very feeling, what we call the inner witness, and we're pulling our insights from the incredible work of D.L. Dantes.
This line from the author, wow, it just perfectly nails that strange feeling, doesn't it? It's that sense of being right there, on the very edge of something big, but you're still somehow on the outside looking in at your own life. And get this, that quote actually came from a dream the author had. What's so powerful about it is the feeling it describes, of being fully present for your own potential, but feeling like you haven't been allowed to join the conversation yet. So the dream wasn't some kind of prophecy about the future. No, it was more like a psychological mirror reflecting the present moment. It showed that sometimes the absolute biggest obstacle we face is that part of ourselves that just doesn't trust our own voice to speak up.
And this brings us right to the heart of the conflict, doesn't it? The battle between being a witness to what we could do and actually being a participant in our own lives. Think about it. It's the artist who has all the best paints but never touches the canvas, or the entrepreneur with a brilliant idea who never, ever writes that business plan. We see our potential, we might even talk a big game about it, but we stay a spectator. So the real question is, why? Why do we do this to ourselves?
Well, there's a really crucial difference we need to understand here. Being silenced by the world, that's an external thing. It's usually pretty obvious when it happens. But silencing yourself? Oh, that is so much sneakier. It grows quietly inside us, and it's a master of disguise. We tell ourselves we're just being cautious or patient or humble. But if we're being honest, a lot of the time it's just plain old fear of what other people will think.
And the price for that self-imposed silence is incredibly high. It leads to a life built around avoiding any possibility of making a mistake, all driven by this paralyzing fear of being wrong. But here's a thought. What if being wrong isn't the catastrophe we've built it up to be?
This right here, this is a total mindset shift. Instead of seeing mistakes as a disaster, we can start to see them as data. Being wrong is actually an opportunity to learn, to adjust, to grow. You see, an honest effort, even a flawed one, is infinitely more valuable than perfect silence, which just leads to, well, nothing. Stagnation.
And this is the key takeaway for sure. Real confidence isn't built on a perfect track record. Not at all. It's built on the resilience to miss the target, dust yourself off, learn something from it, and come back stronger. At some point, we have to realize we're the ones holding the invitation to our own lives, and it's time to let ourselves in.
Okay, so we've talked about our waking life, but that inner conversation, it doesn't just stop when we go to sleep. So what about those really intense, sometimes terrifying messages that come to us in our dreams?
For centuries, people have viewed nightmares as these grand spiritual messages or prophecies from the divine. But what if by always looking up for some cosmic meaning, we're actually missing a much more immediate and practical warning coming from within?
Here's why we so often get it wrong. The experience is so intense, so real, that our first instinct is to assign it some huge supernatural meaning. But a lot of the time, a nightmare is simply our mind's way of trying to process the stress or fear from our day. And sometimes, and this is critical, it can actually be our body trying to sound a physical alarm.
Now, to make this crystal clear, let's look at a personal example from the author. It's an incredible case study that shows how reinterpreting a recurring nightmare literally led to a life-changing discovery.
So for years, the author had these awful recurring nightmares about being choked, unable to speak, fighting off some dark presence. The story he told himself, based on his beliefs at the time, was that this was a spiritual failure. It was a sign of weakness, and it brought a lot of shame. But the new reality? It was something else entirely. The dream wasn't demonic. It was diagnostic. His body was literally being choked because of sleep apnea, and the nightmare was its desperate, symbolic way of screaming for help.
And this is the central idea we really need to grab onto. A dream doesn't have to be some divine message to be incredibly important. By shifting our focus from trying to predict the future to exposing the present, we can use these nightly messages to uncover critical truths about our mental, emotional, and even our physical health. This whole powerful framework for understanding our inner witness, both awake and asleep, comes directly from D.L. Dantes, who is the founder of the Resilient Philosopher, a place dedicated to exploring exactly these kinds of practical, life-changing ideas.
So I'll leave you with this question. What is that conversation inside your head trying to tell you? Is it fear holding you back? Or is it a critical signal you just can't afford to ignore? If you want to dive deeper, you should definitely visit The Resilient Philosopher. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.